All right. Welcome to EMS Office Hours. I'm Jim Hoffman.
And I'm Josh Knapp.
Josh, we tried to get Dave on today. I know it's short notice. I don't think he's going to make it today. So maybe next time.
Well, we're here,
Yeah.
as we've been here for the
Yeah.
last 15
Forever.
years.
Exactly. Exactly. So just let the people watching know a lot of interesting stuff coming up soon. Sort of another version of the podcast that's sort of EMS, but not EMS. I also have some guests coming on this podcast, names that people will recognize, um, that they might follow in other EMS blogs and stuff like that. So working on getting that done, and just a lot of stuff going on that I can't wait to sort of share with everybody. Um, the effort that it takes to put these things together is not easy. It looks like we're just popping on here and talking, but there's a lot more behind the scenes. And so this is why I always ask people to, share the stuff, hit the like button, the heart, squeeze the heart button, whatever it is, to just kind of let us know you're watching. Be sure to comment in the comments if you're watching on Facebook or even YouTube, and let us know you're watching there. And go check out emscalls.com. Get a free report there on some differential diagnosis in the field. Since, as we all know, if you've been working EMS more than 5 minutes, everything that is wheezing is not asthma, and all chest pain is not an MI. So Josh, today I wanted to talk a little bit because I've seen this in some of Facebook groups. I've even gotten an email or two of people who joined TurboMedic asking me if they're too old to get into EMS. And some of the people are coming from other industries where they're not even, in EMS at all. Other people have sort of been doing something like we talked about in the last show where they've been volunteering sort of part time for quite a while, and now they want to make a jump to doing it full time. And I'm
Because what the hell, we have no standards.
right. Well, yeah, I kind of knew you were going to say something like that. But my thing is I'm torn between saying, listen, when you get to a certain age, EMS is not really for you, right? Um, and then other times it's like, well, if you're strong enough to do the job and you have the time and mental acuity to do the job, then it shouldn't matter how old you are, right? We shouldn't be discriminating on the age factor of what the job entails. But at the same time, I think there is some reality to it, right? Um,
There's a lot of reality to it.
there's a reality to, okay, when you get to a certain age, your body, no matter how good shape you think you're in, unless you're like a total fitness buff who's been working out forever, where you can hurt your back in a second, hurt your shoulder in a second, right? Um,
Hmm.
and then we're talking about sleep issues and losing sleep because you're getting woken up to do calls, and depending upon what type of system you're working in, right? How busy the system is. So that all ties into play. Joshua is in the chat, and he mentions that when you're physically or mentally unable to keep performing the job, that's safe for patients and your coworkers. Now, I agree with that, right? And I think a lot of people
We
feel.
all agree with that. I mean,
Well,
Josh, you have a great point.
I think a lot of people
That
coming into it, Josh, are like, well, I like helping people, and I'm really good at patient care, and I can make great clinical decisions. But what about the elements of how it affects your partner? The lifting, the driving, the carrying of equipment, right? That's something that some people don't take into account, I think, when they're older and they feel, well, I can do this job. I'm smart enough to be an EMT or a paramedic, and I like helping people. But on the other side of that, they're not thinking about the other stuff with, like I said, lifting the stretcher, lifting patients up and down stairs, crawling into small spaces, all that type of stuff. So I'm wondering your take on it, Josh, being a salty dog medic yourself, and where what your thoughts are when it comes to getting into
I
it. Yeah,
try a new hair.
Getting into it, staying in it, and when it's time, when you realize I got to get out, because I'm becoming that guy that when I was a 20-year-old medic, I hated. Right?
Well, you won't let me get past this. I try this new hair color. I go from jet black to, I'm trying this gray as to give me a little bit of
I'm trying as little as
right,
possible.
gain a little bit more respect.
Yeah, I'm
right?
trying to be as
Show up
little as
on the
possible.
scene.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's sort of interesting along the way, because there are some things that are, these hidden benefits. Everybody, when you start your first day, and if you start your first day and you're still looking like you're in your mid 40s, maybe you have some gray at the temples, or some wisdom showing in the corner of your eye. Hopefully, your first 40 years, and I'm using 40 for a purpose here, but your first 40 years are going to be, you're going to learn what it's like to be in the work environment, be responsible, hopefully.
You mean 40
maybe
years as a human, or as somebody getting into the workforce you're talking about? Just general?
No, because at 40, this should be a non sequitur at that point. You're in the workforce, right? You're changing careers in theory, going to EMS.
Right.
I mean, that's what I did, and I know there are guys out there and women out there that are, ER techs or someplace involved in the hospital, and maybe you have a hospital-based EMS system, so they see the guys and girls coming and going, and now now they want to be part of it. And that's fine. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to sort of know what your limits are, though, because like in our comments, Josh said, you gotta be able to be there for your partner, and that, as you learn about EMS, you learn about being a first responder, is absolutely the foundation. You've got to be there for your patient, your partner. Now, when we talk about being safe and all of that, we talk about your safety, then your partner's safety, and then the patient's safety. But you have to take your game up another notch when you're going in middle age to a stressful, dangerous profession where, at any moment in time, everything in your body, it has to be on point. One of the advantages is, I don't know if it's an advantage or not, because when I first got on the bus, and I'm sure you did too, Jim, you just wanted to sort of disappear in the woodwork, not stand out in any way, and learn from the guys who knew what they were doing, because this was, when you first get involved in EMS, there's a lot of secret code words that you got to sort of learn, right?
Sure.
So you try to sort of stand in the background, but here you are, you have maybe a 25-year-old partner who has 5 years on you on the job. Maybe in his mid-20s, he has 10 years on you on the job. So they know what they're doing. You don't know anything, yet the cop on scene, the fire chief on scene, the patient's family on scene are going to come to you because they're looking at you saying, you're the one with the experience.
Right. Sure. And that's a good point, Josh, too. I think some people don't realize that. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not necessarily
the color of your hair.
It's not necessarily the element of you and your ability to do patient care. It's how it reflects on partners, how the people on scene perceive you, right? And that doesn't mean you're disqualified from it, right? I'm not saying you should be disqualified from doing it because of that, but I'm trying to kind of point out during the show with some of the challenges, right? That's a challenge, right? You have to sit there, the older person, and come up with some sort of I don't know, commentary or something to let people know that come to you like, hey, I'm not the senior guy here. That 25-year-old or whatever has been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing it for five weeks, right?
And you don't want to say that either, do you? You don't
Right.
want
No,
to say, "Hey,
you
I'm
want to
brand
make
new
sure
on the
how you're
job
doing.
here."
Exactly, exactly. So
You
it
know,
is important. I mean, Steve in the chat mentioned about um, that he teaches a lot, and in a lot of places, especially sort of the rural community that is super out there, the only people that are volunteering, where they have a lot of volunteer agencies in those areas, the people that are volunteering, that are stepping up to do it, are older. They're 60, 65 years old, right?
hmm
Um, and they understand the difficulties, but there's no other options, let's say, for that community, because that's who's coming up to do it, right? The younger people are
but
looking
they're
to get
stepping
paid.
up in a different way, right? They're stepping up in more than likely, Steve, if you're still with us here. I'm going to say that those people are stepping up as a volunteer. They're not stepping up in a 40-hour a week or an 80-hour a week situation. They're going to step up with known limitations on what they bring to the table. But in some places, you nailed it. It's like, can you fog a mirror and warm a seat? Okay, you're hired, because they don't have a lot of choices,
The other
and
than that too is that
that's
a lot of these volunteer places, there's more than just two people on the truck, right? You'll get a certain amount of people that are respond that are there, all there to sort of help. You
hmm
know, I know when I
hmm
volunteered, we rarely had less than three people on the truck. It was a clown car. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
But like I said, I think the challenges there, um, and it's not just the education end of it. It's recognizing that you're going to be challenged when it comes to lifting things. You know,
Let's go sort of, let's wrap this back full circle back into what we were originally saying, that your this is your second career theoretically. Now, taking it from that stance where you're, in your late 30s, early 40s, maybe even your late 40s, maybe even your early 50s, and you want to start this as a career, understand where the years go and where you're going to end up, at that point in time. Are you going to be a 60-year-old medic when everybody else is in their 20s and 30s around you and trying to keep up with that? Or are you going to bring some of those wisdom and lessons you've learned, to the table? So, one of the things that I do is, listen, if I've got to carry, I carry. If I got to lift, I went, but I left 911 and went into transport for the specific reason that the environment was more controlled, or at least so I thought. But still, even so, if you have a bariatric patient, there are nurses, there are orderlies, there are people on the floor that can help you and your partner, gently transfer this patient. You're not taking them up or downstairs and things like that. So
like you know,
that's an
a
important
little more control.
consideration.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah,
you make a good point
exactly.
when it comes to the people that are. This is now becoming like their second career, right? I mean, I've seen comments where people are looking to go from a well-paid job to being an EMT, and they're aware of the pay cut they're going to be taking.
We seem to have lost Jim here. I'm wondering if I'm recording.
I'm back,
You're back. All righty.
back. Yeah,
Your image is still frozen on my side here,
a little
and I
bit
don't
of an
hear you.
internet issue. That's all right.
Ah, there you
You don't
go.
hear
Hey,
me?
Jim. Welcome back.
No, I think it's important. I think that some of the comments Steve is making, Joshua makes, that you know especially in the distant communities that are out there, that they are struggling to get people to respond to calls. So they, like you said, they kind of take what they can get with regards to any kind of age or anything like that. But I
Mhm.
think, like you mentioned, a lot of people coming into this are doing it as a second career, right? They're starting something fresh, but I think they have to just
But
recognize
what happens, Jim? What happens when you
even the
transfer?
adult learning part of it, Josh, right? Some of the people that come to me for the coaching stuff, they're not necessarily. I kind of have kind of both ranges of the spectrum. I'll get older people that'll come in because they're adult learners. They're not used to, they're not really into the studying skills. They kind of lost that over the years, and then it's the lower end of the spectrum of younger people that are struggling because they haven't really been taught how to study correctly, right? So the older
Yep,
people, there's that challenge as well, right? They're not even EMT, they're thinking about doing it. They're not sure they're going to be able to pass the classes and the skills and the clinical rotations and the demands that the classroom environment demands. But they have to kind of overcome that thing now. The thing of where they haven't been in school for a while. They have to kind of get back into study mode, right? And
hmm
there's that challenge of even getting the certification. So when
but
I see people in these Facebook groups where someone asks the questions and everyone is right away, go, you can do it. I'm fucking this old and I started doing, I'm a flight medic and I'm a fucking this and I'm a that and I'm a this and I'm still doing, listen, that's you, right? But there's
right.
other people out there who are old and are like, I can't wait to get the hell out of this goddamn business because my back is killing me. I can't keep up with continuing education. I have so many responsibilities outside of the job that I'm 60 years old and I'm done with this thing.
Yes,
And I'm looking at people looking to just get into it, right? So I think in the end, it comes out to the individual. It comes out to what your skill level is on both your health and fitness, your ability to retain information, and mental ability, like Joshua had said early on, right? Your physical and mental abilities to handle the workload. And I think that's what it comes down to.
absolutely.
I don't think there's what to say. Okay, at a certain age, get out. Let the younger people do it, or at a certain age, you're too old to get into it, or even too young to get into it for that matter.
Jim, we go, I mean, this touches on so many issues in EMS. I mean, in terms of, the foundation of EMS is to go home at the end of the day, to do the job, theoretically help somebody, but you're a first responder. Your first job is to be able to go home at the end of the day in one piece, so you can repeat the thing tomorrow.
Right.
And I think that, at the same time, we're talking about somebody new who doesn't have the same skill set coming in, and they're an older person and such. Yes, there are certain obstacles to them in their performance. There's no doubt about that. But we also have to sort of be on the defensive there and say, when you're in your, starting midlife, way past your 30s, there's certain wisdoms you bring to the table, theoretically, maturities, theoretically, that, don't set you off when you're in the same way that when you're in your 20s.
Right.
And that's
Right.
really kind of important, because those will be the foundation of your survival skills as you take this on as a second career. I mean, they're, just dumb stuff that 20-year-olds do all the time. They can go out drinking all night and show up to the job with 3 hours sleep and still perform fine and work a double without any problem, but at the same time, that would cripple somebody when they get
Yeah.
older and have done that a few times. I mean, you
Right.
only get to do that a few times before it really takes a toll on your body.
Yeah.
So, the idea that just because you're older doesn't mean you can't do the job, but at the same time, just because you're older doesn't mean you forget everything. Just because it's a new career, you're not forgetting everything in your past.
Yeah.
You're bringing that and you're using those skill sets that you've acquired over time and integrate them now into a situation where you can now be more prudent in your response. And that everybody benefits from that.
Yeah, I do want to kind of wrap it up with that thought, Josh. Is the people that are a little bit older do bring their life experience and into the job, right? Being able to handle multitasking, stressful situations, things like that, where they might have done something similar in a job they came in before, or just their life experiences in general, where they can kind of parlay that into being an EMT or being a paramedic, and that even though, like you had mentioned earlier, you're the older guy in the background trying to learn the lingo and trying to evaluate the scene and who's responsible for what, and what role is the cop playing on the scene, what role the first responders really playing on the scene, and people looking at you like, well, you look like you're the older guy, you should be the one in charge, and the 25-year-old is the one that's got more experience. But the fact that you can bring some life experiences into it can help the 25-year-old grow as a provider as well. And listen,
Absolutely.
there was one thing I remember when I was in medical school. They made us wear a white shirt. So on all the calls, people always thought I had some sort of authority because I'm walking around with a white shirt, and everybody else has got blue, and I'm like, I'm no one's introduced me
Chief.
as a student, right? I'm a big shot. I was a big shot until I said no. I would have to admit, no, I'm the student, and I was like around the same age as the people I was riding with, so it was hard for people to kind of see. So, like you said, just imagine you're the older guy now in the background. It's not as easy to differentiate who's in charge and who's not. It makes it a little tricky. And I think out of everything, we're talking about one of the bigger things that when I see people posting this stuff in groups and having discussions about it, that's one thing nobody really ever mentions. Is the actual on the scene. You're the older guy. The younger guys got more experience. They're technically in charge. They're the crew chief or whatever, right? And people looking at you, the older guy, as being the one that should be taking charge, making decisions, telling people what to do, and you're not.
And what's worse about that, just as a side note, something personal that I had is that you have, especially for me, when I transferred into EMS, I left a management position. I was a suit and tie in an office, a manager. I had people reporting to me. So I was used to the command structure of being able to say, hey, get this done, and it would hopefully get done. When I came into EMS, there was, that feeling of, oh, this, and especially when people responded to you like you had authority or control. And so the impetus is to go and, control the scene. And, the humbling factor is, hey, Junior, sit down. This is how it's done. We'll show you. There will be time for you. But right now, stay out of the way.
Right. Yeah. Well, Josh, let's end it there. I think we've just kind of highlighted some things because I just want to kind of have sort of a audio discussion about it, because when I see this stuff going on in social media and these questions being asked, I think they're valid questions. I think people have valid concerns of coming into this, this profession at an older age, and sometimes a bunch of text messages, a bunch of Facebook post or Instagram post in answer to it doesn't quite, I guess, display the full entity of the difficulties that might be out there. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, let me just add one. Let me add one thought to this: is
Sure.
the idea that when you're older and you're transferring into a new career, the whole key for you, and the key that in EMS is especially important for the people that you're going to be working with, is be self-aware. Know what your limitations are, know how you need to work around those limitations in order to get the job done, and do some if you're seeing this and you're thinking of it, do some self-evaluation. Can you stand the level of pain and discomfort that the job requires on a daily basis? And if your answer is, maybe it's not for you as a second career.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's end it there, Josh, because I don't want to. I think we've covered a lot of stuff here today. Um, so I think it's. I think we really hit it from a couple different angles. I don't want to go on forever about it. I just want to kind of just touch and kind of talk a little bit about some of these things that I've been seeing. If I could tell you how many times I see things on a daily basis that I'm like, man, that'd be a great idea for a podcast. That'd be a great idea for a quick video, a quick this, a quick that. You know what I mean? And I end up either forgetting because I'm old, or I write it down and I can't find my notes. So I've been trying to get better at, when I see these things and these ideas that I know will apply to EMS, I'm using this little computer here that I have.
Yeah, I have to tell you, the tools that that are available today that I struggled with when I first started are absolutely amazing. In terms of everything from the Medscape app or the Hippocrates app to find out what drugs do and diagnoses and things like that, to just having a handy searchable reference like somebody I know makes for certain protocols.
Right.
I mean, that was your app, Jim, was a lifesaver on a lot of, especially at the end of the job. Not so much when you're doing the job, because you sort of learn what you need to do, and that's where your skill sets, that's where your self-improvement skill sets come into play. But when you're documenting, and in the days of these protocols, you want to make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's.
Yeah.
And having the protocols right there, knowing the order of certain things at the what they're calling out for, helps your documentation, tightens up your documentation.
That's something I try to stress a lot. Especially when I do some of these videos I do on Mondays, where I kind of give a quick basic tip or cover something that's very basic or something that you should already know. But I find that a lot of people overlook them, and when they watch the video, they get feedback from people saying, "Hey, I forgot all about that," type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because people don't realize that it's not just getting a cert, and that people start realizing in the job that it is an ongoing thing, and that little things like having a resource handy to you or reviewing a basic topic here and there helps you not just pass tests, right? It's helping you, like you said, document, better, interact with other healthcare professionals better, make better clinical decisions. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That old stupid saying of ABCs, BLS before ALS. It's true, right? Because there are elements you have to keep in the forefront before you start moving on to all that advanced stuff and thinking your patient has some crazy disease. You know what I mean? So, all right, Josh, let's end it there, man. I really appreciate it, guys in the chat. I really appreciate you guys making comments. I know Diane just made a comment that she retired at age 55 and she loves every second of her career. So
yeah, and we're definitely not we are absolutely not saying that you can't love this career.
Right.
We're not saying that you can't love it as a second career. We're just saying that there's a difference between doing 30 years in EMS, starting out when you're 25 and ending when you're 55, and starting out when you're 45 and ending when you're 55. Big
Exactly.
difference.
Sure. All right. Well, I hope people can kind of get some of these challenges that we mentioned and take them into account if you are considering a career in EMS or moving into it a little bit and see if you like it or if it's something that you might want to move forward on. You're in EMT school, so just think about some of the stuff we talked about, guys, and ask other providers out there what they think. Don't just do it on Facebook when you're doing your clinical rotations and you see other medics and EMTs coming to the ER and stuff. Ask them what they think. Ask them what they feel about it. You can get great insight when you ask people one on one what their feelings are, on that. So be sure to go ahead and do that and take advantage of that. People love to talk and tell you their stories about how they struggle in EMS and in life. So if they can pass on a little nugget to you that can help you if you're in this position, take advantage of it. So, all right, we will end it there. Josh, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, everybody, that is going to be it. As always, I'm Jim Hoffman.
Josh Knapp.
Stay safe.